Today was a great day, a collaboration of people that mattered that can push the idea of a Western New England Greenway to fruition.
The reality of this bike route from New York to Montreal through Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Vermont looks like it's really taking shape, and we've taken a giant step here today.
Their main plan is to use lightly traveled river roads, safe on roads, and go from the Massachusetts border all the way to New Milford. Dan McGinnis and Dan Bolognani and Sal and Pat, who were all working to create the Housatonic Covered Bridge Trail. So when they found out I was already working in New Milford, we started working together.
I'm very pleased with the turnout. I'm pleased with the presentations. I'm pleased especially with the collaborative spirit of the people that came here today.
This conference has come at the perfect time for us. As part of the Economic Development Task Force Special Initiative on Bikeways, and what I've found is that several of the people at this conference have an amazing amount of information on how to develop a total greenway system to come up through New England, and I'm very excited about it.
I think it's a great vision. It's a challenge to go through such a rural area. Having worked on a trail that is largely connecting urban areas, I found that urban areas, it's a lot easier to get trails built because there's a lack of open space, a need for people to get outdoors, and there's a big constituency. On the plus side, there may be some very low traffic roads that almost meet the same standard as a trail if the traffic is low enough and slow enough.
I think Kent is a real natural fit. We're a transitional point between the urban areas to the south and the more rural areas to the north along this greenway, along the Housatonic River.
If you've got a project like this and you have a weak link, the strong links or segments on either side, as they get done, then you get a lot more strength to get that. Everybody concentrates on that segment.
And New Milford is an example where it's sort of stuck in the middle of some great progress. I'd say most of our southern corridor has the same challenge that New Milford has, but on a bigger scale.
What happened was the people who showed up were people who were genuinely interested in this, were capable of pushing the project forward, or at least advising us on how to push the project forward.
We are the statewide advocacy organization for active transportation, as we refer to it here, or human-powered transportation. That's bicyclists, but I want to make sure that you know that we represent people who like to walk, hike, do rollerblading, ski skating, others who are users of the public roadways.
So what is the Berkshire Bike Path? It's a vision. It's a vision of a central spine that runs from Vermont to Connecticut and the entire length of the state.
A national heritage area needs to be able to tell a nationally important story. And each of these have to go through a designation process, which includes a feasibility study by the National Park Service and congressional approval.
And the idea there is that we end up with a numbered route, as they have in Canada, as they have in a variety of other places, where people begin to recognize a system of bicycle routes that are marked both on-road and off-road.
The Bikeways did a survey of people who had requested information from us a number of years ago, and one of the things we asked was, how much money did you spend when you came?
You look at your own experiences, anybody who's traveled to go to a bike event. How much money do you spend? I mean, if you go there, you're spending money to stay overnight. You're spending money to eat your breakfast, lunch, dinner, and usually after a good ride, you're usually pretty hungry. If you go with a tour group,
we've done a lot of tours with the bicycle tour company, and we find camping along the way or staying in bed and breakfast.
The other part that we're emphasizing in our planning study that's related to the business rationale is using the trail as an alternate mode of transportation, not just recreation.
The existing trail is called the Ash to Wiltacook Rail Trail. It's 11.5 miles in length. It runs from Lanesboro, Massachusetts to the Berkshire Visitors Bureau. And we have documented days where there's been over 2,000 users in the past.
The neat thing about Lake Champlain Bikeways is that it's got a lot of variety. If you get up to the north end of the lake and into Canada, it's very, very flat. You got long vistas. If you come down the New York side, it's very hilly, but you get some places where you can look across the lake into the Green Mountains of Vermont, and then in Vermont you can't beat the little local towns with the church spires.
We need to bring visitors to the area, and we need to develop a livable environment for people that we want to come live here, raise their children, and have their careers here.
I've always bicycled, always loved bicycling as a child. It's my great freedom machine, and always has been. It led me into triathlons soon after college.
And I especially like cycling on trails because you can relax and enjoy what you're seeing without constantly having to worry about whether a car is coming up behind you. One thing I think that the powers that be, who are very supportive of building these bike paths, realize is that you need at these public meetings to really be prepared to bring out the supporting groups in order to counteract the negatives.
You need to give people opportunities to exercise, especially kids. I would definitely connect with people in public health, and everybody from the Department of Defense to CDC, everybody is starting to look at active transportation. That's what this conference was about, and that's a very powerful argument. You know, you oppose stuff like this, well, we have to start changing the way people get around.
I've led bicycle tours in this area for over 30 years. I grew up in Connecticut. I lived in Vermont. I worked for a bicycle tour company years ago in Western Massachusetts. So connecting New York City to Montreal through Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Vermont made a lot of sense to me. I would also like to thank the National Park Service, Congressman Chris Murphy, the Cycling Sports Group, and the Bikes Belong Coalition.
Most importantly, I think, is we had the right connections to state and municipal governments, to agencies and departments of transportation, to regional planning commissions, and those are going to be very important people as we start to strategize our next steps.
Most bike advocates now really understand that bike trails mean big spending brought in from other areas. And really the only thing I added to that is that on a project like this, a trail going from New York to Montreal, that information really has to be made available to all of us in much more detail. And it's such a powerful tool that you're going to, let's say for a 21-mile trail, you're going to generate $6 million in annual spending along that trail. That's the lifeblood of some of these small towns along the trail.
There's a combination of benefits to having an established route. First and foremost, I believe, is that the route is chosen because it's the best route, it's the safest route, the most scenic, it may have the most number of heritage sites along it, so it's this additional layer of enjoyment.